Hey everyone, it's been a while since we had one of these, well, not so usual videos where I do not really fight bosses, predict units. This is more of the fun content side of things, the ones, or the viewers, the subscribers of mine who've been watching me for a while now know that I still do these videos sometimes when I have the time for it. So today, like I mentioned yesterday in my curtain review, we are looking at my personal top 5 units that I regret not pulling. With some of these 5 units that we're going to talk about, I actually ended up with them eventually, but some I'm probably never gonna get, and to this day I actually regret not pulling for them when they were out. Without further ado, let's dive right in with the very first one, and oops, that would be Flammy. He's a mana collab unit, super old unit too, but the reason why I do regret never pulling for Flammy, and it was pretty much shortly after I started playing the game, if I'm not totally mistaken, is that I didn't know, honestly, that these killers, Flammy's STMR has 3 75% killers, Undead Beast and Fairies, would come in so handy rather sooner than later. These days, whenever we fight an Undead boss, a Beast boss, or a Fairy boss, I wish I had Flammy's STMR. Not only because there's 75% killers on them, but also 60% attack, which, like I said yesterday in the curtain review, I feel that this is worth more than, for example, Carton's STMR, which has 60 attack but 50 killers, but instead of the increased killers, it has 50% true dual wield, which I don't find good at all these days anymore. So when comparing these two STMRs to each other, I still would rate Flammy's STMR higher than I would Carton's, for example. And even the Trustmaster reward for back then, with 50 attack, 20% MP, HP, that was pretty good when comparing this to other Trustmasters we're getting these days. Like take for example Carton's TMR, it is 53 attack, right? And Flammy is a super old unit at this point. I mean, yeah, Carton's TMR also adds 100 static attack, but it's only for himself. So still comparable though, and I feel like Flammy was one of the best units we've gotten in the 7-star era, and I should have really pulled for him, or for it, whatever. So yeah, number 4 is AI Katy Perry. This might come as a surprise, but it's again more of a case not because the unit or the kit of the unit is put really good, it's more about the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. I misjudged both the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster at the time when she got released. I even had the Lapis to pull for her, I just didn't, and now I regret it. And the main reason why I regret not pulling is upgrade package. If you've watched previous reviews of mine where I actually used upgrade package for best in slot builds, you kind of know why I regret not pulling it. The upgrade package, if you don't know what it does, it, among other things, a lot of other things, it allows the use of rods, whips, light and heavy shields. And especially the rod and whip thing is kind of a deal breaker, or it is a deal breaker for not pulling it, because it also has good stats all around. It's such a good, and it's an accessory as well, with I believe magics on it too, so it is just a super good Super Trustmaster to have. And antivirus software, her Trustmaster, is at the beginning of the fight you get stat break resistance, so attack, magic, defense and spirit cannot be broken by 100% for a couple of turns, and it's another source of ribbon on a accessory slot. So yeah, hindsight 101, I guess, or hindsight is equal to 100. I don't know what the meme or how the meme actually works, but in hindsight, I should have pulled for AI Katy. Would have made my life so much easier. Number 3 is Yoshi Kiri. I have to admit, I was at the beginning when Yoshi Kiri got released, I was one of those people who entirely neglected his LB buff for the party. I was like, this unit is totally useless. And if I look back at it today, I feel like I was so stupid. Like, why would I neglect a unit that does LB damage buff, has amplifications, has the imbues on the same ability? The killers, his entire kit was so good for back in the day when he got released at the beginning of the Neo Vision era, and it would have made the first 2 to 3 Dark Visions so much easier. Like, you basically had to have Yoshikiri on your team to make Ibarra stand out even more, because Ibarra came out shortly after Yoshikiri, and these two, they paired so well with each other. It was crazy how good Yoshikiri made Ibarra because of that LB buff that he could provide for the entire party. So that was one of the biggest regrets I had back in the day. Now, eventually I ended up with my EX plus 3 Yoshikiri when he was not meta at all anymore. I got my first Yoshikiri copy when he wasn't relevant anymore, so that felt really bad. And I do have a feeling that the other unit on this list that I never pulled for and I regret to this very day is going to end up being the same for me, that this unit will be irrelevant by the time I get it once. Next one, Mastermind Xorn. It's one of those decisions that I actually did regret a lot. So Mastermind Xorn, I believe 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago? I don't know, but it's quite a while ago. It has to be 2 years ago because Dark Vision started soon thereafter, I believe. And Mastermind Xorn was detrimental. At first, when I saw his kit, I was like, yeah, this is super bad. Like who's gonna use all of this? I completely underestimated the copy and spread mechanic that he had or has. And yeah, after I found out that he's basically mandatory in Dark Visions, because he can steal 200% killers, the attack buffs, etc, elemental resistances, and spread it to the whole team, while also hiding so someone else can take the job in passive provoke evading. It was one of my greatest misjudgments, and truth be told, I had to wait for the 25 euros paid bundle to get my very first copy, and I believe that was 3 to 4 months down the line after he got released. I was like, alright, you made that mistake, it's time to pay up for it. Like, that was back in the day when I actually still cared about Dark Visions, and I was like, yeah, let's not make this mistake again. Now, these days, I probably could, yeah, if Mastermind Xorn were ever to get a Neo Vision Awakened, I could EX plus free 2 copies of him right away. It's again one of those units that I regretted not pulling, and then I ended up with way too many copies and they flooded my pulls, basically. But yeah, back then, I was like, yeah, that was a dumb decision. And the number 1 unit I regret not pulling, and it's one of the more recent ones, is Skye. I mean, she came right after Sephiroth, and I was like, yeah, Skye is looking good and all. I even said in my review that Skye was actually worth it. And I just didn't have any lapis, and I didn't want to spend any money on her. That's why I skipped it. But in hindsight, I probably should have splurged like 50 euros, the 47.99 bundle, and just get over it. Because nowadays, Skye is in literally every team, and the biggest reason here is the 50% accuracy down on her Brave Shift Element Burst. Like, if you want to tackle the current Clash boss, having 50% less accuracy on the boss is such a huge deal, because the alternative is using Bulwark with 25% accuracy down, and that means you probably have to sacrifice DPS on units such as Sephiroth, because you have to equip more evasion on them. And she also has super high damage in Clash, is still one of the best units, number 2 if I'm not mistaken, just closely behind Lara Croft. But still very, very flexible because her limit burst is non-elemental, and just a super good all-rounder with 87 breaks. If there's a unit that I regret really not pulling the most, it had to be Skye. Like, yeah, I regretted not pulling for Yoshikiri and Xon, and these easily could have been my number 1 slots too. But Sky, whenever I see Cinsard or Wanderer doing any clears in Clash, I'm like, yeah, you got Sky, I don't. Then I check out the other teams at the top rankings and I'm like, yeah, everyone's using Sky and you were dumb enough to skip her and now you're gonna regret it for the rest of the Neovision era probably. Because truth be told, I don't think I'm gonna pull her ever unless she is on a featured banner like Ling was on a quote-unquote featured banner last week. She was not guaranteed at all, but she had a 1% drop rate from the banner pulls. Truth be told, if they did this with Sky, I would probably pull, even though I was not guaranteed a pity for Sky, but I'd probably do it. So yeah, Sky, huh? I really should have pulled back then, 2 months ago. Or was it 3 months ago? No, it should have been 2 months ago. So yeah, I'd be interested to get to know your greatest regrets when you did not pull and wish you had, because I think it's a kind of an interesting topic to talk about. Things you thought back then were bad, but ended up being super good and mandatory. I know a lot of people are gonna say Zidane or Venera, because I've used them plenty, and I know so many commenters said, I don't have Zidane, what to do? I don't have Ling. Or people downvoting my videos and Cinsar's video because we use Zidane and or Ling. So, well, as truth be told, I still think it's kind of stupid to downvote a video of a clear from someone trying to help others just because that someone is using a unit that you purposefully skipped, for example. I'd never downvote a video. I usually do not downvote any video, to be honest. I've never downvoted a video, and I never will, because I know there's a lot of effort going into these things most of the time. So, but yeah, I'd really like to know which units you guys regret not ever pulling or purposefully not pulling. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a nice rest of the Saturday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're from. We'll see each other at the very latest tomorrow for the Neovision November prediction, but I might do another anchovies video later today. Let's see about that, but for now, bye bye!